you know, the information online, but just in case you didn't, if this sounds redundant, I apologize in advance. But it's great to have community leaders. I mean, this is part of, you know, what we try to do at the university with mixed success sometimes, but reach out beyond, you know, the confines of the campus. And as I said, I'm really looking forward to hearing our two guests. So let me start, as I mentioned, with some important background information for today's presentations. And it's about the Twin Cities program, which I think some of you might be quite familiar with, but I'll go into it in any event. So in 1998, the City of Madison established a Sister City program. And current Sister City programs are Arcatao in El Salvador, Bahir Dar in Ethiopia, Camagüey in Cuba, Freiburg in Germany, Kanifing, which we'll be hearing a lot about today, in the Gambia, Mantova in Italy, Obihiro in Japan, Tepatitlan in Mexico, Vilnius in Lithuania, and Cusco in Peru. So quite a few, as you can tell. In accordance with the City of Madison Resolution 44907, please take notes, in 1998, I quote, Madison has established and supports sister city relationships in the belief that person-to-person ties are the strongest and to work for peace and better understanding of all cultures. Sister city relationships are created to develop lasting friendships on the human level and to provide a forum for the exchange of ideas and views, end quote. In 2015, the current State Assembly District 48 Representative Samba Baldeh was elected as the first African to represent an aldermanic district at the Madison Council, City Council. At the time of his election, no sister city relationship existed between Wisconsin's capital and any city on the African continent. He worked hard to change that, and by the time of his departure from the council, he had helped establish two sister cities, one in his native country of the Gambia and the other in Ethiopia, Bahir Dar. Since the establishment of the relationship between Madison and Kanifing, Madison has had the pleasure of hosting visitors from Kanifing, members of the Kanifing Municipal Council, or KMC, several times. While some Madisonians have visited Kanifing, until recently no official delegation from Madison had been sent to the Gambia. This all changed at the end of last year. Between November 27 and December 3, 2022, a delegation from the City of Madison traveled to Kanifing with the objective of strengthening ties and deepening collaborative efforts. Delegates included Mayor Satya Rhodes-Conway, Deputy Mayor Linda Vakunta, Elders Barbara Harrington-McKinney and Charles Maydze, Library Director Greg Mickells, Department of Civil Rights Director Norm Davis, Office of Business Resources Manager Saran Ouk, State Representative Samba Baldeh, and leaders in the Madison community, including representatives from Dane County, Madison College, local nonprofits, and businesses. The Office of State Representative Samba Baldeh, the Madison-Kanifing Sister City Group, the Mayor's Office, and partners in the Gambia, including Kanifing Municipal Council, Banjul City Council, the Ministry of Higher Education, and the University of The Gambia, coordinated the trip. All planned activities aimed to deepen connections between policymakers, elected officials, and staff working on issues of shared concern to both Madison and the Kanifing Municipality. So, with that longish introduction, let me now turn to our two guests today. So Samba Baldeh is the representative for the 48th district in the state legislature. This district includes the eastern and northern parts of Madison, including the village of Maple Bluff. He is a native of the Gambia in Western Africa and immigrated to the United States 22 years ago. Representative Baldeh's educational and employment background is in the informational technology and software engineering. He began his political career in 2015 when he was elected to the Madison Common Council or City Council, where he served for 6 years. He was elected to the Wisconsin State Assembly in 2020 and re-elected in 2022. I think congratulations, you're still in order, right? Our second guest, Jared Kujabi, is a network engineer for the Sun Prairie Area School District with over 15 years of experience in Cisco solutions design and implementation. He has previously worked for TDS, Wisconsin Department of Administration, and Burby Information Networks Corporation in various IT roles. Jared is president of the nonprofit organization, Madison-Kanifing Sister City Committee, and the Senegambia Association of Madison. He serves as vice president of the African Association of Madison and is a member of the 100 Black Men of Madison. So the title of their joint presentation today is Madison Sister Cities, a reflection on the recently concluded Sister City trip to Kanifing, the Gambia. Please help me give a very warm welcome to our two guests.
All right, thanks, Luis.
You're very welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And, first off, I want to say thank you to Alea and the African Studies Program for having us this afternoon. We're really glad to be here to join you guys. Like Luis mentioned in his introduction, lovely introduction, Samba and I, Representative Baldeh and I will co-present. What I want to do is just introduce myself, give you guys a little background about the Sister City program itself more broadly, and then how the Madison-Kanifing Sister City came to be, and some of the activities that we were engaged in here prior to the trip. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to travel with the delegation last year, but Representative Baldeh did. And so the second part of the presentation would be just hearing how that trip came together, who was a part of it, and the activities that happened during the trip. And next steps after the trip has returned, what the goal is in terms of what we want to do with the delegates that travel to the Gambia. Like Professor Luis said, my name is Gerard Kujabi. I immigrated to the United States a little over 20 years ago. My background is in networking. I'm currently a network engineer for the Sun Prairie School District. I have a wife and a 16-year-old daughter that goes to Madison East. So a little background about the Sister City itself. Like he mentioned in his introduction, in 2015 is when now Representative Linda Vakunta decided to run for City Council for District 17 and won that race. Shortly after his election, he was one of the committees that he was seated on was what is called the Sister City Collaboration Committee. And as you guys have heard in the introduction, it is a committee that basically builds partnerships between the city of Madison and other cities around the world. Prior to his election, like I said, the Sister City program had existed in Madison for about 30 years, but no relationship had existed with Madison and any African city. With his appointment to that committee, he worked hard to make sure that that changed, like the introduction that you heard. He helped establish the Madison-Kanifing Sister City, and also before he left, added another one in Bahida, Ethiopia. So now the Sister City program in Madison has 2 of the total 10 Sister City relationships that exist between the city and other cities. So some of the programs that we as a Sister City are engaged in since our inception was we worked with the Wisconsin Medical Project here in Madison and sent a 40-foot container of medical supplies to the Gambia. The other thing that we have done is partnered with local area schools through MMSD. May 25th, as most of you know, is Africa Day. Prior to COVID, we had celebrated Africa Day every year at O'Keefe Middle School. The other thing that we did was at Cherokee Middle School set up what is called a pen-pal relationship, where we connected kids, middle school kids in the Gambia to kids at Cherokee, where they would write letters back and forth, basically trying to understand and learn each other's culture, how things are done back home, how things are done here, and that sort of thing. As you've heard in the introduction as well, I am a member of the 100 Black Men. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that organization at all. The Madison Sister City committee partnered with the 100 Black Men. They have what is called a back-to-school backpack project. We partnered with them and worked with them to distribute over 200 backpacks to local area school kids here in Madison. The city of Madison was also generous enough shortly before COVID. I think this was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Representative, this was back in 2017, where they donated over 1,000 trash bins to the city of Kanifing for trash collection. Prior to that happening, most of the ways that trash was being handled and collected back in Kanifing was through donkey carts. So people will put trash outside their compound gates in the morning, and you will have donkey carts that would come around to collect it and haul it to a dump site. That program really helped the Kanifing City Council put together a trash collection program. Since then, they've invested in like 7, I think, trucks.
27.
27 trucks now that collect trash in the city. So those are some of the things that can, come out of this relationship. Our mayor from Kanifing has traveled here at least 3 times. In that time, he visited different city agencies to learn about best practices in different management areas throughout the city. And so, those improvements and things that they've learned during their trips here in Madison have, helped. They've implemented some of those to help better the lives of people back home. And since those visits have happened, like you guys have heard, this past year, the mayor of Madison put together a delegation of about 20 people that traveled with Representative Baldeh to Kanifing. At this point, I'll pause and hand it over to him, and he'll give us an overview of that trip and some of the activities that happened on that visit, and like I said, next steps that we're hoping to follow up on now that the delegation is back. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll run you guys through some photos of things that I've just mentioned, and I think we'll open it up to questions and answers at the end, I believe. Thank you. You can stay seated.
I can stand.
Yeah, you can stay seated.
No, this is good. I want to exercise the leg. All right, well, good afternoon. Thank you, Jerry. And good afternoon to all of you, the African Studies Program, for putting this together and inviting us to share an inside view of what the sister city relationship is about. I think you've heard enough about my political career. In 2015, I decided that I want to be at the table and see how I can bring about some of the changes that we are talking about. It is important that we diversify, our policy making people, I should say. So, like Jerry said, in November, December, the mayor of Madison agreed to visit Gambia. After many invitations from the sister city, but also from the mayor of Kanifing. And so, like the professor said, this exchange program is mainly about ideas, but also people-to-people diplomacy. I think this is the best thing that, generally they would say the best kept secret that Madison has. You cannot imagine the kind of changes this relationship has brought to the community in Kanifing. When we first started, some 6 years ago, basically KMC, the Kanifing Municipal Council, had 0 trucks to pick up trash. Had no idea how to really put routes together, or at least put this thing together to an extent garbage is collected. And this is something that comes with population growth. We must have to find ways to do this. But with our support and their visit to the city of Madison, we were able to expose them to how things are done here in this city. But also, as part of that, really talk to them about the possibility of doing or partnering with local business owners. And this is how they got started in terms of getting their 27 trucks and things like that. Every other municipality in the Gambia is now really piggybacking on how KMC is doing stuff. So this is why we thought it was important, not only for them to visit here and see how things are done, but also this is a relationship that goes both sides. And so, we invited the mayor of Kanifing, the mayor of Madison, among other friends or people that we've been working with over the years to visit Gambia and see. In many cases, there are a lot of misconceptions about, many African countries, if not all of them. And sometimes face and experience being there is a good way to really let them know and stuff like that. So in November, December, the mayor agreed, so we reached out to some of our friends and invited them on the trip. Some of the people that we went with are CEOs of tomorrow. They are responsible, generally their programming is about teaching young kids about entrepreneurship. And so the whole idea was to go and see how they can do programming in the Gambia. So fortunately, everybody was really excited and came out of the trip really feeling that it was a good trip, and so they want to repeat it. Now they are going back sometime in April and taking some young kids from the United States to the Gambia. As part of the trip to the Gambia, when we get there, we visited different places. One of the places that we visited was the President of the Republic of the Gambia. So I had at least about an hour-and-a-half meeting with him and his staff, talked to him about what we do here, but also what this relationship means. They are very welcoming and really looking forward to strengthening the relationship, which was excellent. The other places that we visited, unlike America where the schools are run by school boards and things like that, in Gambia it's mixed, it's all over the place. So there's a school run by the municipality itself, the only one school that is run by a municipality. And so we visited that school, the principal and all that kind of stuff, some of the challenges that they are faced with and some of the opportunities that exist. And some of those challenges are really space, it's difficult to have the ratio of teacher to students here that we have here in many developing countries due to funding and so many other stuff. And so working with them also to help provide them with computers and things like that for their libraries and things of that nature. The other place that we visited was the fish market. So generally the way it works, electricity is a problem in many parts of Africa. It's improving, and so there's this plant that is built so that if fishermen go to fish and come, women generally, this is done by women in many cases, go buy the fish and go to the market and sell them. In many cases, not everything will sell, but they have no way of storing them on their own. So there's this plant that is built so they can go and store their fish until the following day and go sell them. In many cases, there's no enough space. So we wanted to visit and see what the challenges are and see what we can partner with in terms of resources around this area, but just to help them build, a facility where they can store this fish so that it doesn't go bad or something. So we also visited Bakau Women Garden. This is a place, where it's predominantly, again, women do a lot of, the household work in Gambia, as you may be surprised maybe. And so they also, discuss their challenges, opportunities, and things like that. The biggest challenges that they have is really access to seeds. And so we came back here now discussing about the possibility of connecting them with the farmers market leadership and see what they can do together. So these were some of the places that we visited as part of the trip, because we visited the president of the country. We also thought it was important to visit with the main opposition, because this is also part of building our democratic institutions so that people can at least disagree but be able to work together to move the country forward and things like that. So we visited the head of the main opposition party, Usainu Dabo, and had conversations about the sister city and things like that. Some other things that have been happening, the other place that we really visited was the Bakote dump site. As you may know, maybe some of you, this is the biggest dump site in the whole country, and it's in the middle of a residential area, where now not only the air is polluted, but the underground water is polluted. And it's also next to an orphanage, where kids, with no parents live and things like that. So it's a really dangerous and bad situation there. So we've been trying to work with the Dane County landfill and other institutions to see how we can help support close the dump site and open them a landfill, because we must have to find a way to manage waste as population grow in that part of the country. And so, again, the county is very supportive. The city is very supportive, so we are looking forward to finding ways to really close the dump site and open them a landfill. So as part of the trip, we also invited Madison College to visit, with us. So, some of you may know, I came to Madison generally as a result of having contact with the Madison Area Technical College then. I came for a conference in Washington, D.C., organized by President Carter then, called Global Meeting of Generations. This one guy, Jeff Bradshaw, that I met at that conference, we broke into session, we talked about, what we're interested in, and he talked to me about the programming that they have around computer science and things like that. So that's how I end up coming to Madison. So Jeff and I remain connected, and so when we are going on the sister city, you know, me and him have been working on really establishing a relationship between Madison College and the University of Gambia. So this was a good opportunity for him to come along, and so eventually we are able to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Madison College and also the University of Gambia, and they've already started programming that way. So these are some of the good stuff that can come out of this relationship. And so, I mean, I want to give a shout out to Lisa, who was very instrumental really in putting together the Gambia sister city, the Madison-Kanifing Sister City. I remember when we were putting it together, almost everybody ran away from it because we had Yaya Jammeh, who was a dictator, and everybody thought, you know what, this is not a good idea and stuff like that. But eventually now, it's becoming that relationship that we really were missing in terms of just bringing about change within the Sister City program. So I think, like Jerry said, at this point, you know, he has some photos. We didn't put together a slide, but at least we can speak through the photos. And if you have any questions,
do you want to talk about the trip to Senegal before?
Yes, yes. The other thing that we did, I don't know how many of you know Gore Island. So Gore Island is that place they call a gate of no return, basically. You know, during slavery time. You know, it's a very difficult story to tell. It was difficult even me to visit and know what has transpired there, you know, seeing the way people were treated in those days. It was just painful and difficult to watch. But we did go to Senegal. Gore Island is a little island, you know, not far from Dakar. We are slaves from West Africa were gathered before they were shipped into the Western countries for slavery or something. So we did visit them just to have a historical perspective of what happened, but also for many of us to better understand, you know, what happened with slavery and how we are now all, whether black, white, or whatever, that we are called to make this world a better place. What has happened, but we are all obligated, in my opinion, to make this world a better place. And so it was important that everybody get that perspective about what happened, and so how do we really leverage that, or at least from that vantage point, make things better for everybody. So I think those were the places. I don't know if they are missing anything, but that's what the trip included. Obviously, it was good. Got at the airport, got very good reception, drumming and dancing, obviously, in the African style. You know, went to the hotel, it was a resort kind of stuff. And that's one thing I really like people to explore. Sometimes our perception of Africa or other parts of the world, particularly Americans, is very different. So Americans, to my understanding, many, except for those who serve in the military or maybe in an institution like a university, are not very comfortable exploring outside. But it's important that we do this. I think it makes us better. It makes us understand people and where they're coming from, why they do things the way they do them, but also come back and, you know, find a way to really bring that into our own way of life, because it's a global village ultimately. And the more we understand each other, the more we accommodate each other, the better we can make this world, but the better we understand each other as well. And so Gambia is a tourist destination. That's basically the only thing we do is by the Atlantic Ocean, very nice sandy beaches. But we are also called the smiling coast of Africa. And that is true. I mean, almost every Gambian you come across will be smiling at you and be very nice too. You know, it's not to say there are not bad people or crazy people or something, but generally they are very nice people and very welcoming. And so, you know, so we had really a good time. Hotel was provided at the municipality cost, food the same thing. So the only thing that delegates, you know, spend money on was their return tickets and things that they wanted to buy and bring back to their people. The other thing that I just want to mention a little bit was the component of the African American who went with us. It is always important to me as a black person from Africa who lives in this country to find a way to connect African Americans to Africa also. I think that it gives them kind of that feeling of, you know, connecting to where they originally came from. So I make sure that that opportunity was there, but also that if they really want to be connected, say, on a place where you can vacation every year or once in a while, that all was a possibility. And these are discussions that we had with leaders there, that if these people want to come back here and find a way to make here their home and then go back to America and stuff, that be possible. And that is a big possibility for African Americans who may want to, you know, identify a place in Africa to call home. I know Ghana is really doing good programming around that. But Gambia is picking up, and other countries are picking up. So if African American friends, but anybody who really thinks that this is a global village and we are all in it together, encourage them to explore outside of the United States, the comfort of their own comfort zone. I should say. And see how this world, it's a beautiful place. It has a lot of challenges, but at the same time, I think we have more things in common that we have different. So, Jen, I think you can go with your photos and
so,
if there are any questions. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Well, as you've heard, a lot of great things happened, and the delegation had a wonderful time. Already, some of them are planning on returning this summer. Notably, one of them is the CEOs of Tomorrow, who is traveling with 10 high school youth to do programming there. So we'll just go through a couple of pictures. They're not in any particular order. As you've heard the representative mention, when they were in the Gambia, they visited with the president. And that is one photo from the State House of the Gambia. This, I believe, was a session of the Municipal Council meeting that the delegation attended. And this was
part of the entertainment. We had cultural night, so therefore, this was part of the group that was performing that at that cultural night event. So, I mentioned the municipal school. This was part of it when we visited there. Norm Davis is the guy in the front there. He's the head of the civil rights department here in the city of Madison. He also took along his daughter. Again, obviously the school. Yeah. So this is what you would call an assembly hall. So generally, me growing up in Gambia, every morning, before we start anything, we'll all gather in a room like this, and the principal will send a message to everybody, what is expected this week, this day, behavior, and all this other stuff. And so this is where they meet. Really need some infrastructure. You can see it's dusty and all that, but again, these kids were very happy to have people like me and others just be in their midst. I grew up like them. If I can have the opportunity to be there like this, then definitely they are inspired and stuff like that. So, I mentioned the women garden, so this is part of it. So we, like I said, they grow rice, vegetables and things like that, but they're challenged with sometimes seedlings and things like that. So, yeah. So this was, I think, where we signed the Memorandum of Understanding between the University of Gambia and Madison College. As you can see, Jeff Bradshaw is sitting to my left. And so the rest of the delegation, the mayor is sitting at the corner there, up here, the mayor of Madison, the mayor of Kanifing.
Oops, sorry. So this was the visiting delegation from the Gambia to Madison. And this is Edgewood College, because when they were here, they visited the college. And the gentleman in the gray blazer is Greg Mickells. This is the Madison Public Library. And part of their visit to the library also inspired the municipality building a library in Gambia. So this would be the second. The entire country of the Gambia had one library at the time. So when they were here, they visited the public library, and now they're building their own library in the municipality.
Yeah. So, and as part of this trip also, we agreed to help them get satellite libraries, at least 7 of them. So before we went on this trip, before COVID actually, we had started working with the library and put a team together to help build them a library. So in the process, working with them on documentations and things like that, they were able to get funding, I think from the European Union or something, to build a central library. But now we want them to have satellite libraries across the municipality, so we are working with them to help build 7 of those.
And I mentioned the medical supplies that we sent in partnership with the Wisconsin Medical Project. These are some of our folks here at their facility putting those items together for shipment.
Yep, so, this photo was taken after our meeting with the President of the Republic of the Gambia. He's the one in the white with the hat, the white hat or something, and then next to him is the mayor of Kanifing. And then you can see our mayor, Barbara McKinney, and then Deputy Mayor Linda, and just a good chunk of the delegation and things like that. So the fish market, like I said, you know, these are some of the vendors there. Like I said, we are on the coast. Every kind of fish is available, and so, but sometimes storage is a big challenge. And you know, sometimes just an idea. How do we really learn from what is the University of Wisconsin doing with, say, for example, solar programming? What can Gambia, or at least this municipality learn from them? So this is where they sell, but then once the day is over and there's leftovers of fish, they need to store them. And so we visited the facility. It's small, sometimes, you know, they can't just have enough space, and therefore things go to waste. So the municipality also, after their couple of visits here, realized that they really need a space where they can really work and bring about change. So they went back home, budgeted to make sure that they have a building that, you know, they can have council meetings and stuff. Before then, they just had a room like this. So now they have a city council building where they have a chamber that is, you know, modeled after the Madison chamber. And so this was just the outside of that building where we are signing their guest book. So obviously, the mayor of Kanifing was handing over the keys of the city of, you know, Kanifing to the mayor of Madison. I don't know if this key can open anything, but
this photo was actually the day. This was back in 2016 when the resolution to establish the Madison-Kanifing Sister City was brought forth to council, and those are some of the folks in our community sitting in the gallery.
So the other thing I want to identify in this photo is her and her. So she's my mom, she's my wife.
And this is our very own Representative Baldeh reading the resolution to his fellow council members at the time. And I think this was council president at the time.
Yeah, so yeah, he was council president at the time, and so this was the day that the relationship was ratified between Madison and Kanifing. So these were the delegation from the Gambia. I think this photo speaks for itself. Mayor Paul Soglin, you know, Ines, and you know, the rest of them Gambians, and you know, some of us here.
This was their arrival at the airport, I think. And this is here. This is the Global Health Institute building. We also visited that space when the delegation was here. And I mentioned our partnership with the 100 Black Men organization. This is one of their drives where they prepare supplies for the back-to-school backpack events.
Yep, so obviously we didn't want it to be all work, no fun, you know what I mean? So this pond has a historical connotation to it. People think that, you know, so when women, for example, have issues with not being able to get babies, they go here, some magic happens. They can get babies after visiting this place. So there are a lot of historical and African Gambian things that is attached to the pond. So they have tons of crocodiles here. As you can see, you can touch them, you can do whatever, you just have to be careful not to annoy them. But you know, we made a visit to this place also.
This was at the sewer district here in Madison, and that's the Madison-Kanifing delegation visiting at the time. Like I said, they toured many different city agencies and other places within the city when they were here. And this is one of the busiest markets in the municipality. It is in the town called Serekunda. I think that's the last slide. No. This is one of our Africa Day celebrations at O'Keefe Middle School with some of their kids in their school. And I think that's it.
All right, very good. Yeah, so as you can see, what we try to do is really expose Kanifing to how things are done here. When they visit, we take them to every possible place so they can see. Sometimes imagination is very difficult for people to see and understand a space that you have never been to. And so, coming here, knowing that at least this country is described a developed country, and that's where they want to go, to see where the developed countries are and how you can work to get to that, I think is important. So that visual and having these conversations with communities here, I think is really bringing a lot of change in the municipality, but also that inspires other municipalities to also really find a way to piggyback off and make things better. So I think at this point, we'll take questions.
I think there's one.
I have a question, yes. Well, first of all, thank you for coming here and telling us about this trip. I was very curious about it when I heard that it was happening. But my question is, well, I'm glad Madison was able to give and inspire a lot to Kanifing. What was something that Madison leaders took away from the trip that they wanted to implement in Madison? And what would you like to see Madison do inspired by their trip to the Gambia?
Yeah, so like I said, this is a two-way relationship. One thing that you can inspire people also is to be compassionate. What they've come to learn is that, also the other thing that they learned from us is, Gambia, I should say, is that we have more things in common that we have, that divides us. And so the other thing that they really learn is that, at different scales, the challenges are the same. Whatever Madison is dealing with now, from poverty to opportunities for young people, to education challenges and things like that, is the same thing in the Gambia. It's just in different variants and things like that. But what it also did for Madison is really to look at how we do stuff. There are certain things that I think, in terms of leadership and people being able to work with their leaders, this political divide is not as big as it is here. So that, they learn not to hate the other side. Like here, if I am a Republican at the Capitol or a Democrat at the Capitol, I almost will never even say hi to a Republican and things like that. So they realize that, obviously things can be tense in politics, but in Gambia, for example, like I said, we visited the sitting president, we visited the biggest opposition leader in the country. And so it can work that way. So there are tons of things that I think we learn from each other. And I think, when it comes to what Kanifing learned from them outside of the things that we saw, it's also really city planning. We have a lot of challenges. Jerry saw the photo of the market. It's like everything is, but is, sometimes I call it organized chaos. I think that's how people function well under those situations and things like that. But I think overall, as part of the sister city is also the cultural part of it. How do we know each other? So I live here, Jerry live here, many Africans live in the city of Madison. If you have to govern at the city council, if you have to govern at the county level, at the state level, it is important that you start understanding this culture. So at least your budget can be reflective, your programming can be reflective and things like that. So I think they learn a lot in terms of our culture, even though we are the only few people that they know, they now can imagine where we came from and how we do things the way we do them, and what can they pick out of that and make their cities, municipalities, counties, and state better.
How did you choose Kanifing as a sister city partner? Was it a personal connection, or did it have a certain profile that made it attractive?
Yeah, so like I said, when I was elected, the sister city had existed for decades. No sister city in Africa. So once I was elected, I met with Mayor Soglin, and I said, look, and I also Lisa, I said, these things must change. We got to, get a sister city in Africa. So I know I would be biased if I just invite Gambians, to start this process. So what I did was invited the whole African community to a meeting like this and said, look, this opportunity exists. I think we should, take advantage of it and see what we can do. Obviously, I was just elected. So I believe the Gambians were more galvanized than the rest of the African groups. So decided to come together, Jerry led the pack, and so we put in an application. But I said that wasn't enough. I think, like you're asking, how did we choose Gambia? It wasn't enough for rumors not to go around that Samba was biased, he did this for his own country and had no interest in other places. So again, I reach out to the African community and say, look, let's see if we can get another sister city in Africa. This time outside of Gambia, so at least that ban. So we got Ethiopia to apply. And so this is how it was difficult because everybody would want to take this thing to their city. I was telling you earlier how when I went to Nigeria, the mayor of Abuja was interested in a sister city. And so I came back here. The problem was the Nigerians that I brought together were all interested in taking the sister city to their own cities or their own states within Nigeria. And so it was difficult for them to come together. Until recently, I mean, I've been able to at least put some people together who are interested now in pursuing a sister city between Abuja and Milwaukee. So we get to this point by just inviting people, and whoever it was, whether it was Gambia or any other country, I was going to support it. So there wasn't biasness on my side.
Kanifing in particular.
So the other thing, the way the sister city is designed, there are certain things that you have to meet. So whatever sister city you will have outside of Madison must meet the government structure of Madison. So they have to have a mayor, an elected mayor. They have to have a city council. And they also have to have a 501c to be the go-between. The idea is that if, say, for example, Paul Sublin is gone, if Satya was not interested in this, he may attempt to kill it. But if just the way we have the sister city here, the sister city collaboration committee, we have the same 501c in the Gambia, so that those communities can groups can work together even outside of the political establishment and stuff like that. So Kanifing is the closest to what we have here. So the mayor is elected, the city council is elected, and all that. So Banjul has a similar thing, but Banjul has a very small population compared to Kanifing. So we thought going with Kanifing would be, the rest of the country is structured differently. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
No?
I guess I have a question. What do you see as sort of the ideal outcome of this relationship? What would you like to see happen in the future?
Here you wanna go, or I can go?
No, you can go and I'll chime in.
All right. So obviously, like I stated, we are in a global village. So the way Martin Luther King put it was that injustices anywhere is injustices all over the place. So poverty, inequality, and all these negative cultural, societal things are interconnected. The reason why we have Somalia and other countries around the world hating America is because of our engagement and stuff. So if you look at it at that level, I think it's a diplomatic tool for people to be appreciative of each other, know each other and know where we're coming from. Once we know each other, we probably will not hate each other. We can disagree, but we will not hate each other to that level. But what I think this is bringing is what we have seen already. Environment. So when people are sick, they die. If they don't get good food, they probably will not live longer and all this kind of stuff. So what this relationship has already brought is the idea of moving the municipality in a way, but the whole Gambia as a matter of reality, in a way Western countries has developed. So waste management, for example, is a big stuff. So now at least we know this municipality know how to do it. The other thing is that we always, I particularly bring into the table is really governance and democracy. Because I think if people have good governance, good democratic principles and institutions, then they can strive. They have the freedom to think and do stuff, that generally is not allowed in a dictatorship or in a country that is somehow controlled by leadership and stuff like that. So seeing us as Africans living in the United States or other parts of the world doing what we are doing, going back to our countries and telling them, look, if we can go to other countries and do this and it is happening, why can't we do it? Is the fear of the unknown that, look, if people are empowered, they may overpower us or something, but that is not true. So there are tons of things that really can come out of it. But also, here locally, how do we, generally immigrants are interested in either education or businesses and not connected to government, not knowing that everyday decision that we make as a government impacts their life. So having this relationship will also connect them to their governments here locally and find a way to really engage so that their kids can get good education, but they can advocate for their kids because they came from communities where advocacy for things like this does not exist. And so having this understanding that it's a different situation in the United States, particularly in the communities in relief, I think help them be participant in their kids' lives in terms of education, but also their communities, how they want their communities to look like. So there are tons of things that really are already happening, but can resort to this, but also just the relationship. And I'm sure the mayor or anybody who went on the trip, if you talk to them, will give you a different perspective of Africa. Even though it's only Gambia that they went to, they may go to a different place and have different experiences. But I think, their worldview has changed just as a result of visiting this country for 10 days or a week or something. So I don't know if you have.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to piggyback off of that and talk about my goal personally as part of this program that Madison has is to see it expand, is to see it grow. Like he mentioned, some of the benefits that can come out of relationships like this. At a time in the world where it feels like everything is falling apart, the world is in chaos and all that. I always like to tell people that, I am a lost cause. I just turned 50 last year. So my hope is in kids like this. If we're able to teach these kids about, their counterparts halfway across the world, what their life is like, what their culture, their backgrounds, which is what we envision to do. Because like I said, with the pen pal relationship, for example, they write to each other about their school experiences, their daily home lives, their daily activities. These kids have no idea, but now if you catch them young and you're able to tell them that, it just broaden their horizon about how to interact with other people, about different things that are happening in other parts of the world. And I think that would help bring harmony and resolve a lot of the issues that we face now.
Oh, I'm sort of following up on that question. Thank you so much for the presentation. So I'm wondering specifically when you're talking about the exchange of ideas and people, what ideas you have or have thought about as a group about, specifically for university students, both from Gambia, from MATC, and from UW, about how university students could play a role in the city's, the sister city sort of partnership going forward.
So obviously as students, the idea is, and then we've reached out to the university again maybe some 5 years or so ago, when maybe longer than that, when Yaya Jammeh was the president. The relationship for students to go to Gambia, do their study abroad program was suspended because of the kind of government that we had. But that's one thing we can do, is to have students from the University of Wisconsin go to Gambia or Africa and learn for themselves, apart from the books that you read and written by individual opinions, or sometimes they can be factual or not. But at least that study abroad program, I think, is one way. Programming. We now, for the past 2 years or so, it was Zoom. So you can Zoom from Timbuktu to anywhere. So how do we build that relationship, build curriculum together? So for example, solar programming. You don't have to go to Gambia or something, but we can have professors here teach. The other thing that we've been thinking, obviously, next time around, is we have, when school closes here, people want to go on vacation. How can the sister city organize people who are interested from the university, who are professors or something, specialize in different domain, to go to Africa or Gambia in this case, and spend 5 days teaching at the university, or at least sharing thoughts on how things are done here and how they are done there, and help that way, as opposed to just going on vacation and having a good time and things like that. So there are so many ways that we can be engaged. But I think universities are supposed to be institution of curiosity, where you learn and develop your brain, but ask yourself things that you cannot even imagine how they happen. Challenge your universities to be diverse. Diverse does not mean just having diversity locally, but diversity of geographical diversity, on all this kind of stuff. How do we engage and things like that? When you invite speakers, don't think of just European speakers or something. Think of African speakers, and things like that. So I think, this is how I think, we can engage universities and colleges. Like I said, MATZ now have a relationship with the University of Gambia. UW should do the same thing, or at least be able to open that study abroad program. Like I said, we met with the study abroad program. People wanted to have students here go there, but again, it was suspended. So going through that process took a lot of time. We couldn't change it during Yajami's time. But again, this is where we have to look at the ordinary people. The politicians will be politicians, crazy and stuff like that. But again, we are called to make this world a better place. So how do we do this outside of politicians sometimes is important. When we make this decision, we are looking at the political stability or lack of it. It's important because people's safety is very important. I would understand if these things are suspended. But again, it's very quick to say, look, it's a bad situation, let's get away. Who is there to advocate? Nobody. And so, but these are the programming that I think college students should be engaged in. Be curious about, go to a class and say, look, I know we are doing it here this way. I would like us to do it this way with Senegal, Gambia, whatever country that you are interested in. Yeah. You have something?
Oh, actually, my question was very similar. Just were you able to establish any exchange programs between Madison College, Edgewood College, and the college there? It sounds like there's some work being done in that direction.
Yep. So.